So, Molly Cartmill, it's really great to have a minute with you to ask you a couple of questions. And the first one that I want to ask you, because you are an inspiration to me and to others for what you accomplished when you were at Sempra. Why don't we start by just you say who you are and give the glimpse of your many years, what, 30 something years at Sempra? What was your role there, and is a kind of a high level view of what you achieved?
Yeah. So I just left within the last 8 or 9 months after a 32-year career there at Sempra. And Sempra is a Fortune 500 energy services company. I worked in a lot of different roles over time there, almost every single aspect of external affairs that you can imagine. At the point in time when I elected to retire, I was director of corporate citizenship and chief stewardship officer for Sempra Foundation. Mm-hmm. And today, what I'm doing is have a little bit of a startup called On Purpose Squared. And the idea is to consult with companies to really make the most out of their corporate citizenship and CSR programs, and really achieve alignment, I would say, with your vision, with your mission, with your values, but at the same time with the global goals, so that you're prioritizing the right things and engaging employees, and it makes sense to stakeholders. So I think I've done a lot of work in that space, and I think it would be terribly fun if I could find some companies that could use that kind of support and assistance.
And that's great. And what I hear and what you say is that you're all about making a difference. So my first question, I know about you that you really supported your people when they were working for you in any department. Your first interest was their career path. And you knew that you would lose good people, but the payoff was amazing. So how did you find your way to such a generous focus on supporting your people on their path?
I think the only way that work gets done is through people. So you can always better fulfill a department's agenda, a corporate agenda, any of those things, if you really know and understand each individual person that works on the team. You understand their capabilities, their career interests, where they're hoping to go over the longer term. And when you know those things and you take stock of those things, I think the results are better, and you just have a really engaged, warm, kind, team with everyone wanting to support one another. And but it really takes that level of knowledge, I think, to really understand who's who and what their hopes are. And it also makes supervision way more challenging and fun when you really understand people.
Right. And when you say more challenging and fun, that really means that you probably have people who are really good that you would love to keep, but if you put them under a rock, it's a disservice to you and to the company. And one of the outcomes that I know is that people clamored to be wherever you were because they knew you would nurture. Yes?
I like to think that. I mean, that sounds braggy, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I think many people told me that, that they hoped for an opportunity to work on my team and that sort of thing. And I just, like, to me, work wouldn't even be fun if it's not about the people and about helping others. To me, it's just, I mean, anybody can do a spreadsheet, anybody can write a plan, anybody can deliver on the what's, but it's the hows and the who's. How do you work with people? Who are you going to employ to do what project, and who gets to lead, on what at what point in time, and just fairness and equity and all of those things. It just makes it more fun. It makes it more challenging. It takes a little more time, but it's well worth it, I would say, in the end.
Yes, I agree with you. What have been the surprising gifts for you? And this question is coming, right? That have come out of your generosity with your time, your feedback for your employees, walking the line between holding them accountable for results and supporting their long-term vision. What have been your surprises? Tell us.
I mean, one gift is certainly, for sure, just trust, loyalty, sort of that unwavering support even when times are tough. When you go through times in a large, complex organization, often there's anxiety, there's concern over, it could be a reorganization, it could be a cost savings initiative, it could be new senior leader, on the team or something like that. And, people tend to get very nervous. They think about the me issues. But I think that when you have that kind of trust and loyalty and support, people don't look at it only through the lens of how is this going to impact me? They think about it in context of the whole team and what can we all do as a team to get on board and figure out how we're going to deal with this challenge. How are we going to save money? How are we going to deal with whatever is causing all of that anxiety? And so I feel like for sure that is a gift. I think a second gift is really the relationships and the friendships that you secure over time. I mean, I am still friends with people I supervised 10 years ago, 15, 20, 25 years ago. Yes, they're part of my network, so I keep in contact with them, but they're friends. Like, I want to get together and go to lunch and visit their families and that kind of thing. And that role that you have at work where you're the supervisor and they're the employee, that only lasts, for a while. And then after that, you can choose to walk away from that relationship, or you can choose to nurture it and keep it. And I think that means a lot. Toward the end of July, I'll be getting together with someone that I supervised 25 years ago, who's probably 15 or 20 years my senior. I love her. I can't wait to see her. And, it's just, that's such a gift, right? Because you grow up together, you learn about each other's families, I don't know. So that's just a blessing, a gift, whatever you want to call it. I just think it's a pretty neat thing when you really invest in people.
It is. It is. And I know you have many stories. I know you have a book of thank yous, right? A big book of acknowledgement for who you are for people. It's almost hard to read. It's so full of who you are for people. Tell us a couple of those stories. And it's okay if you tear up.
Yeah, no, it's hard. There's so many great people stories, I guess, that I have. I mean, one that comes to mind is I had a very, and this is probably 15, 17 years ago by now, a very young woman who joined my team in an entry-level role, very enthusiastic, very much an eager beginner, wanting to show me all the things she could do and so forth. And, after many years of working together, she would sometimes be so enthusiastic, she would get off track and lose focus on the task at hand, if you will. And, we worked so hard together to get her into both the habits and the roles that would help her really shine. And, I look at her today and she's been promoted 2 or 3 times since then. She's in a management position, she's thriving. And I know how hard she worked. And the message she sent me when she learned that I was going to leave my role, and she'd been working for me for, 15 or 16 years at this point in time. She just, she was able to articulate masterfully in her own words, the difference that she felt that I made, to her career and to her life. And I just, I get emotional thinking, I've gone back and read it only twice. And I'm like, ooh, is this true? Did you just write this, or do you really mean this? Because to me, it was an investment in somebody that had potential, and she just needed help to figure out some things, and I'm so proud of who she is and how far she's come. And anyway, that's one example. Another example I thought of is, there was this gal who I admired from afar. I always thought, oh gosh, if the right role opened up on my team, how amazing would it be if she would apply for it and earn it, and she ended up leaving our company for a better role. And I thought, oh, never going to get a chance to work for her. But you know what? It happened. A role came up and open on my team. She learned about it from someone. She applied. I was shocked to see her name among the applicants. We had panels that did the interviews, so it wasn't just my choice. She earned the position, and we had so much fun together. We were such a great match from a skill set, and it was just like a dream come true, to have this gal on my team. And I came to learn from her later that she had really long aspired to work in my group and on my team, and she'd been watching for the right opportunity. So she wasn't even at our company anymore and came back in order to get that job. And she told me, my intention is to stay in this department until I retire. This is where I want to be. And that meant a lot too, in a different way, partly because I admired her so much and had just thought so highly of her for years, kind of from afar. We hadn't worked closely together, but I guess that would be like a second one that kind of stands out, where it's just sometimes you don't realize, I guess, that there's that mutual admiration society, happening. And it was, as you can see, it's the people stuff that moves me, not really the accomplishment of things. So
yes, and that is, and through that you have accomplished amazing results. Yes,
I think so. Yeah.
You and I have had the conversation about being humble, yes, and also responsible for your power, for the intentionality that you brought, that people saw and wanted to align with. So I'm hopeful that those who watch this interview will get that the power of supporting others is actually, kind of paradoxically, the power that has people with power come to you and gift you with their talents and want to work hard for you.
It's funny because when I think about the word that you used, results, right? You think about your employee engagement results, or and those scores, right? Or you think about the awards that your team has won, or you think of, again, the what's. And for me, it as I was leaving the role, right, I did a lot of soul searching about, what did I really learn about leadership? And you used the word humility, and all of that. And I think there's just something, maybe it's not speaking to results, but it's maybe more tips for aspiring leaders or people who are leading teams and wanting to improve. But I really think that word humility is critical. If you're grateful, if you're mindful, if you're humble in your approach, you're a person who gives away credit freely, to others, even if you've done a lot of the work yourself, but you give it away freely. I just think that's somebody everyone wants to work for, right? Not someone that's making you feel small to feel big. But I think that's a biggie. I think also just this idea of lifting other people up, helping them navigate sharing context. When you do those things, they will look as good as possible. They will perform as well as possible because they understand all of the moving parts. And I think sometimes leaders make the mistake and they withhold information. You can't possibly do your best if you don't understand the full context for something. So I think that being humble, having humility, lifting others up, assuming good intent, it's another biggie, right? Just someone might say something, they might come across as a micromanager, or they might exercise their position power, and you can get angry or mad and say, I hate that person, or I hate working for that person. But you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You can't know what's going on behind the scenes. And so I'm a big believer, give people grace. When you do that, and you pause and you offer restraint and you restrain yourself from reacting in the moment, often it just rolls off your back, and it's really not anything the person meant to do. And I see a lot of that. I saw a lot of that in the workplace where people would be offended. And it's like, all you got to do is just breathe and calm yourself down, right? And also, there's so many things like that where you can just employ these little tiny things and it can make all the difference.
Yeah, get recentered. I think you said something that's really important, which is context. The context is the background of what you're doing, right? And the context is sort of always there. It's the elephant in the room when there's an elephant in the room, that you don't need anybody to tell you there's an elephant in the room. You know it. It's in the air, right? So context is important. The other thing that I think is important is that I use the word power and humility in the same sentence, because you have to be intentional about what the outcome is and be intentional about correction and still
Mm-hmm.
deliver that in a way that it's received well, so that it's inspiring rather than critical. And I think that's a tightrope you walked extremely well in order to be able to do what you did through people, which is what a leader is.
Yeah. Well, and also, and you probably know this, we both share USD in common, the University of San Diego, but really employing the use of situational leadership too, right? When your leadership style matches the employee where they are in that moment, if they're an eager beaver beginner and you're helping them and showing them step by step what to do and how to do it, that's what's needed. But when someone's very competent, if you're treating them like a beginner,
Micromanaging.
it's the most annoying thing ever. And they will be looking to leave your organization. I think a lot of leaders or managers don't realize they need to shift,
Yes.
depending on the curve of where that employee is. And when you do that, um, that helps a lot. And on top of it, when you pay attention to people's disposition, are they extroverted and dynamic and a quick mover? You should be, dealing with them in that quick, fast-paced format, But on the other hand, if they're analytical and introverted and meticulous, you're going to need to take way more time, to go over things. And I think a lot of people miss that. I'm the leader and I'm going to take my one approach with everybody.
Well, that's ego-based, right? I mean, it's like it's all about me. It's not about the team's outcome or any of that. So
Totally. Yeah.
The indicators come from your heart, and when you come from heart, then you're led in the direction of supporting people. And when you come from, and it's not an either or, you also have, there's an and there. You also have to be responsible. You wouldn't have stayed and progressed as a leader in the organization if you hadn't also been incredibly responsible for what the outcome was of that team effort. Okay. So it's always a both and conversation. And I think that one of the leanings that can be problematic is too much expecting relationship to do the heavy lifting that holding people accountable is needed for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Meaningful conversation, Molly. Lots of fun to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. It's fun. It's fun stuff.
Yes, it is fun stuff. So thank you. I think you answered. If you have any inspiring results you want to share or anything beyond what we are here, I think it would be icing on an already beautiful cake, right?
Yeah, results. I would just say, one thing I was exceedingly proud of was I think Sempra did employee engagement results, kind of over about a 10-year period, every other year sort of a thing. And, my supervisor effectiveness scores were like 100%, it's kind of not that regular for that to happen within an environment like that. And I think that I attribute it to a lot of what we're talking about. And also when there was I think about the employee engagement survey, when there was a question where we didn't get full agreement 100% on a certain element, I would always really probe and say, well, what is it? And I would think about, well, what can I do as a leader to affect change in that one area, like work-life balance or something? What can I do as an individual to impact that? What can the department do? And then what can we suggest that the company do? And we would always, for sure, the things I could do and the department would do, we would do. And then I would remind them, before the next engagement survey, I want you to remember. So the last time we worked on work-life balance, and these are the things that we did. And I think everybody feels like it's gotten better. What do you think? But then when that question would pop up on the next survey, of course, our scores would be great because we worked on it for 2 years.
Well, and to your point, just Molly, a factoid, The 2021 Gallup workplace results are that the cost of lack of engagement was $8.1 billion, which is about 10% of the GDP. Okay, so it is a big issue. It has not, that 70% disengaged number has not budged. That is my realm. That is what I'm working on. It's why we're having this conversation today, because I know you as someone who can make a difference in that area, and I want others to know it is doable. It's not just something that we talk about. It's something can actually be rewarding, and personally rewarding and professionally rewarding, and making a difference is one of the most fulfilling things that someone can do. So that's you.
I think your supervisor has a lot to do with how happy you are. And you know, your company can be great, the culture can be great, but if the culture on the team is poor, or you don't admire the people you work with, or you don't trust them, or you know, it kind of gets down to that micro. So it proves out the power that individual supervisors have, you know, to support engagement on the team.
And the research is in on that too. People leave people, they don't leave organizations. So
yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
That data is in as well. Well, thank you so much, Molly. This has been delightful. Always a pleasure.